Hello, and let's go into International History, Chapter 2.3. Yay, we're almost done. This 2.3 is based off international relations and tensions. So, let's get straight into it. How did they reduce tensions after World War One? um, First, let's talk about the League of Nations. Now, we're gonna go over the League of Nations in 2.4. But the League of Nations was based off Woodrow Wilson's 14 points for peace, and they were made, well, for peace because, after World War One, everyone was mad and annoyed, and everyone had a bad economy, and half the population just went out because of the war. Um, so they decided to establish the League, and while the League does help, it helps to not as high as an extent as it could have. Okay, let's say that. You guys see next. But yeah, so League was an attempt to reduce tensions, but let's talk about the economy right now. So I'm not sure if you guys remember industrialization, the economy boosting, great, amazing. Literally world just started basically and the economy is growing. Yeah. And then right here in this little peak is where we hit World War. Oops, that's a W. World War. Okay, can I do this? One. And everything goes down. Because I'm not sure if you guys remember me telling you this, but I just said it last slide. Sorry, but war is expensive. So the economy went terrible because again, World War One was to see how long people could stay in it. It wasn't nobody really run anything. It was kind of just to prove who the strongest. There was actually no real reason for World War One. Didn't prove anything. Everyone lost their territories and then gained them back. And to be fair, now we have Ukraine, which technically it was given to Germany and then it became their own country, but that's his own thing, But economy ain't terrible. Okay, we didn't gain anything except for a bad economy. So there is a thing called a gold standard, which is like the currency's amount, right? And I talked about Germany's reparations being 6.6 billion, right? So Germany was in a terrible place right now, right? And Germany was not, even though they had to pay the most after World War One, they weren't the only ones hurt, okay? There's a reason why they had to pay the most, and that's because they did the most damage. And if there's a war in your land, you guys have to pay a lot. So there's a thing called the gold standard. Now, the gold standard, let's say, is like this line, right? So it's like some countries are well over the gold standard, others were not. Obviously, Germany was not. And eventually, over time, and what you guys are going to see in these videos, the treaties, they do slowly make it back to the gold standard, but the economy right now is terrible. Everyone was out, everyone was depending on loans, and you're going to see all the treaties we do, and some of the treaties don't work, but whatever. Let's talk about it. So, first let's talk about the role of the USA. Now, I just mentioned to you guys, like the loans that other countries lived off of, especially the successor states, if you guys remember those. So the role of the USA. Now, while the USA did join the war, remember how they joined the war a little late with Britain and France? And yeah, they did win the war. But before that, I told you how they were standing in the back with Japan and just kind of controlled all the markets while everyone else was busy doing war stuff. So they were in the Roaring 20s, which is 1920s. He says roar. Because in the Roaring 20s, their economy is boosting, okay? And you might be wondering, well, shouldn't their economy go down a little bit too because they were still in World War One? Yeah, but the amount of money they made in World War One just doesn't compare. And after World War One, since every country has to pay reparations and they have to build up their land and they have to go back to the gold standard and they have to get their money back, the USA helps by giving them loans. Now, if you guys don't know what a loan is, basically the USA gave countries money, right? And the country had to slowly pay it back, eventually over time. Here's the thing, over time, that they're giving the countries back, they have to pay an interest rate, which means they end up having to pay a little bit more than what they got. And you guys might wondering why the hell would they do that? Well, that's because they needed money now. And the only way that they could get money now was loans. So that's what they did. So the USA was pretty major in keeping basically the whole world's economy great. They gave Britain, France, Germany, and like a lot of successor states. Well, I think all of successor states their money. So yeah, they ran the economy basically. Let's talk about the Dawes Plan. Now the Dawes Plan. Now we have the Locarno Conference, but it didn't work, so that's why I'm not gonna talk about it. Let's just not worry about that. So let's talk about the Dawes Plan. Now, the Dawes Plan is now, remember Germany's insane reparations? Yeah, they couldn't pay that. Oh, by the way, we had the Kellogg-Briand Pact, but don't worry about that. It also lead to nothing. So, let's talk about the Dawes Plan. Now, the Dawes Plan was basically, hey Germany, I know you guys are doing terrible right now. You see he's crying. He's upset because, whew, economy's terrible. So like, hey Germany, let's fix your economy. And then yeah, so while they didn't necessarily fix their economy, they didn't lower the reparations rate. They what's it called? They like restructured the reparations, so they had to pay still 6.6 billions but by a less amount. If that makes sense, like they had to pay less per year, basically. So that was it. It was restructuring. It was also that Germany's general bank was controlled by other foreign powers, and so sorry for that interruption, guys. But remember how France was like in the Rhineland? Oh, and also Belgium were taking over the Rhineland. Yeah. So in the Dawes Plan, France, mad as hell, but they decided, okay, fine, we'll stop invading your land and we'll give you back the Ruhr, and oh, and that they would get loans from the U.S. That's what's Zaw's plan. So they didn't like take away German reparations, but they did restructure them and help them a bit. But now, if we look at the Young Plan, it did take away the reparation cost because 6.6 billion is an insane amount, guys. Insane, okay? So the USA was like, well, USA's financialist by the last name of Young. It's like, okay, it's understandable if they can pay 2 billion euros instead of 6.6 billion euros. As you can imagine, Germany was very happy about this. Now, that's really it. That's the most important part of chapter 2.3. Yeah, so Germany is a little more relieved. France, even though he didn't like Germany, he was like, fine, we'll let you restructure, blah, blah, blah. And that's basically it. Thank you guys for watching. Bye!